What is going on, guys? It is your boy Player X here with the Semi-Limited Podcast. And as usual, just want to thank everyone for tuning in for yet another episode of the pod and listening to the ramblings of a 30-something-year-old playing a children's card game, going crazy slowly, and basically just going on about the things going on in our card game, our TCG. So, for today's episode, we're going to be going over the ban list that Konami so graciously dropped for us over the weekend, and that everyone's been basically clamoring and waiting for. What decks might be viable now that we actually have a list and can move forward with our lives and preparations for bigger events and stuff? And also some important behind the OTS news that some people might not have been aware of that I just basically came across over the weekend as well. So, but before all that, let's get into these sponsored plugins that you guys all know and love. So, without further ado, please go down to that Linktree link as you're listening right now to go click that description box. There'll be a little link over there to our social sites. You can click on it. All the tabs will pull up for our YouTube, our Facebook, our Instagram. It doesn't matter what it is. If you are on it, we basically have it here. We can do more giveaways when we have more accolades as the year continues. We'll be hitting 50 followers on TikTok, 100 followers on Twitter, 200 followers on IG or Discord, and then 500 subs on YouTube. We will be doing more giveaways. So be sure to share all that content out there with your friends and all your buddies. So that way you can not only get the discussions going on, but also get the awareness for these giveaways going on. Also, shout outs to Unplugged Gaming in Manlist, New York for also sponsoring the podcast and most of the giveaways that we do have for you guys. Be sure to join their Discord server in the description box below to be part of their TCG communities. And we'll also be sure to catch Brad, aka Mr. Perfect, live streaming on Twitch every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. His Twitch will also be in our Linktree link down below, which you guys can click on and go basically find a part what he's doing on Saturdays. Basically, more or less going in over deck theories, crafting, practicing, playtesting, doing whatever you guys want. Maybe it's Master Duel, Dueling Book, EDO, whatever you guys wanted him to do, as long as you guys are interacting with the chat. He is a very good guy as far as doing what everyone wants. So maybe he's playing Fortnite or some other games, who knows? Jump or Fall Guy. He's been into Fall Guy recently, so. But catch him over there every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. Before we start digging into today's episode, though, I'd like to introduce our guest for today. We had another one of his members from the podcast, our brother podcast, I should say, down in New York City. We had him on last week. His name was George. And now we have another of the members of the Heart of the Podcast on, my brother from another white mother. Give it up for Mel the Bodice.
Hey y'all, what's going on? It's Mel. Appreciate you having me back on X, and shout out to the boys of part of the podcast. I know that some people have been contacting us. We have been extremely busy the past couple months now, between people moving, people switching jobs. It's been really busy. X has been
People being
keeping us on.
promoted
People
here
being
and there.
promoted, yep, all that good stuff. So we do hope to get back to recording again soon now that people's schedules and places of living have finally settled in a little bit.
Would you like to give any plugins, any shout outs you guys might have?
Shout out to the best band list we've ever had.
Oh my
No cap.
goodness. I don't know about the best. I still
No,
think
I'm
that
fucking with
2019 one
you.
was
I
fucking crazy. That shit
I
was
have
hard.
many feelings about this list.
Ooh, we'll definitely be getting into it. You want to tell the people where they can get you and your content?
Yep. Heart of the Podcast on anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. It's like I said, it's been a minute since we recorded an episode, but we're hoping to get started back up with it either the end of this month or next month. Just got to work out our schedules. A few of us are teachers, so the school year's starting, so we can kind of get that settled in, and we'll get back into it.
Like to hear, guys. Now
Hmm.
that that is all out of the way, we can finally get into this episode, starting off with that ban list that all have feelings towards. Over the weekend, Konami had dropped the ban list to us. Well, but even before that, Konami had this stupid ass event. It's called a Shadow event, or Shadow Duelist event, or whatever. It was
Hmm.
some Master Duel shit. It was a tournament to have some sort of like celebrity, like person who actually is like involved in Yu-Gi-Oh be revealed to the public by a series of duels. In the description of this event, they updated the description halfway through and mentioned that the forbidden TCG list would be coming out August 31st, which was absolutely weird because it was like August 29th or something like that that this stream shit event happened.
Yeah.
So they let us know basically like 2 days ahead of the time that we're going to be getting our list. And not only did they say it at the end of August, boy, did they really mean the end of fucking August. They went to the very last day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, and it was. It was just such a weird move from Konami, especially dropping it with that like cringe event. That event was so cringe. Did you actually catch it? That
I was
Shadow Duel
confused
stream?
as hell by that event. I was so confused. I was like, so that it's on YouTube. We're watching like this person be like, "Come play against me," except it was and it wasn't. I'm like, how can somebody play against that thousands of people on that? I was very confused by the event, and I had to look up the person that got revealed because I don't know that person very well.
I didn't bother looking them up.
It was Zane, who I'm like, oh, Zane from GX? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Zane Truesdale.
Right? That would be so cool. Like get but it was he's a music person, which, kudos to getting like more celebrity, but I would be shocked if that person has played Yu-Gi-Oh before.
Yeah, they didn't even like have like a good match being streamed. It was like, what was it, Centurion versus like fucking or Snake Eyes, and like it was like a blowout. It was a 2-0.
I didn't even catch it. All I saw was like I just saw somebody in one of the various Facebook groups be like, "Yo, the ban list got updated randomly," and I was like, "Oh, let me go check that."
And it was in a stream. Some
And it was
random
in the
stream.
Yep, some random
Yeah.
ass stream that I wasn't watching.
I don't think anyone was. Like, it was
No.
just so odd. It was super cringe. I watched like some of it afterwards because Trent Armad was
Mm.
like talking about like the event itself because like I also didn't understand what the hell was going on, and then I went back and watched it. Dude, that shit was super cringe. They had like they were like talking to him, but like his mic wasn't working, so they were like riffing to try to like play off of it, but like the riffs that they were saying were mad cringe, and then by the time it did get back on the Zane guy, he was just like super distorted. Like they couldn't get the sound right. It was a mess.
Oof,
It was
that is
it was a real. I think the best part about that event was the fact that they announced that the ban list was going to come. Like that was the only thing people took away from that event.
right,
I
and
don't I don't think they
that,
cared about anything else.
that's what people like. That's what people cared about was like no one is going to this Master Duel stream to watch Master Duel. They're going there to be like you. I imagine the comments were filled with when's the ban list, when's the ban list, which I
Or that
think.
puking horse.
Yeah, that which I also didn't understand until fellow Heart of the Podcast member Nick explained it, and I was like, it was in the judges lounge on Facebook, and I was like, somebody asked, "Can I use this as a playmat?" And I was like, what the fuck is
Why are
this?
we doing this?
Why are we doing this? And then Nick explained it, and I was like, okay, same question. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you didn't answer the question. You just gotta, if anything, open up more series of new
Yeah.
questions.
I was 1000% convinced that the ban list was dropping at 11:59 p.m. August 31st. Like I was ready to be up until midnight waiting for that ban list. And then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's because it was normally the ban list like kind of drops whenever because they don't tell us a time. But I was like, one, they're probably not happy with the community at sort of their response with like how much people are like, when's the ban list? When's the ban list? But I also think I also thought about like, this is unless it's Konami of America releasing or Konami North America releasing the ban list, this is based on the time zone for Japan. So it could be at any point, kind of like how those OCG reveals happen at like 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast versus, they're probably waking up to it.
No, I can agree. Like, and not that I necessarily don't like the way that OCG kind of does their ban list, but at least they do know exactly when it's going to come. It's like every 3 months on like a cycle or some shit like that.
Yep.
They get mad at us for complaining about where's the ban list, but like we are like the only sect of the game that doesn't know exactly when they're getting their ban list. Like even Digimon knows where they're going to get their ban list. Pokemon has a set rotation, so it's kind of easier to know when you're going to get your list. Like everyone knows ahead of time except for us. So it's like don't get mad at us when we're memeing your streams when you meme us in real life every day.
We have a simple ask, like tell us when the ban list is coming. Not even like we don't even need to know ahead of what is on there. Just tell us when we can expect it.
Yeah, When? I don't
When?
want. I want to know when I can buy and like sell cards. Like, all right.
Yeah.
But speaking of the list, let's finally get into what that was revealed. As some of you guys already know through other reactions and blind content and whatever, it might have been leaked to you. But if you are unaware, this is the current list as of Saturday, August 31st, and effective today as of day of recording, the 2nd of September. We have Forbidden, Fiendsmith Lacrima, Appaloosa Bowl of the Goddess, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, and Beatrice Lady of the Eternal. Then for the limited section, we have all going down to one. We have Snake Eye Ash and Snake Eye Poplar, number 40 Gimmick Puppet of Strings, and number C40 Gimmick Puppet of Dark Strings, Branded Fusion, Opening of the Spirit Gates, Pot of Prosperity, Sangan Summoning, and Skill Drain. And then coming up from 0 to 1, we have Eva and That Grass Looks Greener. From the rest of this list, we have a lot of cards coming off and not cards getting hit on it as far as like the number of cards you can use in a deck. So we have the semi-limited section. Shout out to the semi-limited podcast. We have Blaster, Redox, Tempest, and Title of the Dragon Rulers. We have Lunalight Tiger, Thunder Dragon Colossus, Ib the World Chalice Justiciar, all going to 2. And then going to 3, we have Armageddon Knight, Red Rose Dragon, Magic Spectre Unicorn Kirin, Performal Mage, Plushfire, Ancient Fairy Dragon, Denlong, First of the Yang Zing, and then Time Seal. So, now that we have this dumbass ban list, were there any hits that surprised you before we get into what was actually pretty good and what was actually pretty bad?
Hits that surprised me. Honestly, for a very specific reason, Lacrima was surprising. And not because of sort of the general answer of like, yeah, the time rules suck and it sucked that people were doing this, but I wonder at what point does a burn or a life gain card get worthy of being banned? Because there's another card that's in the format that's just as problematic, I would argue, as Lacrima with, hey, I'm going to act like it. There's like a couple seconds left. I'm going to activate Runic Tip, search Runic Destruction. I'm going to use Runic Destruction, summon Munin, end phase time. Oh, I gain 1,000 life points.
Oh, sorry, dog.
In an archetype that is designed to stall, we have I'm glad that it's gone, but I am curious at what, like, is this a sign of like Konami is going to start hitting these time cards? Because while Beatrice being banned is good and prevents a lot of them from activating, like Scattershot, it does make me question like, when are the burn or the life point gain cards going to become an issue? Like, when are we going to start seeing at game 3 almost time in the round, thrust, search, sparks, activate sparks for game?
Yeah, I can agree. Like, and it's like, as you said, I think it's dependent on like the deck that's playing it. Like, Runic definitely shouldn't be having cards like that. And not to say that a burn is like crazy strong in the format, but like if they were maybe going into time or like hitting cards that would go to time, I think that it would do things like maybe limit spooky, was it Dogwood?
Yeah, Dogwood. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Just like things like that might like obnoxiously abuse the time rules that we have today, because some of them are just way too like obnoxious about it. Like, you can visually see on stream sometimes the people are just exciting, and like even that one guy, what's his name, Ida or Ibra, whatever his name was, who went on stream when people slaughtered him for slow playing. Like, he knew exactly what he was going into.
Of course.
He knew that he was going into time with 3 or 4 minutes left. He took forever to side just to go into main phase so he can get to his end phase after activating a fucking Runic card. Like,
yep,
it's crazy.
The people that know what they're doing, like, you can tell on stream, people that know what they're doing with that, you can see it in their play. You see players like, and I'll shout him out, Pac does an amazing job where he's like, I'm not going to, like, I don't want to play into time, even if he clearly has the advantage. He's going to play his full combo as fast as he can so that the other person gets a chance. And that's just like a respectability that we as players should have for each other, because time rules I don't think are going anywhere anytime soon, unless it like, I think Lacrima was about as far as we could get, where people were like multiple times on stream losing to time and visibly frustrated. I'm hoping that we see a change in like one, card design for the future, but also addressing like these kind of burn cards. And these burn cards are not new. Like FTKs exist because they can burn. I understand burn is a strategy, but don't make it a win condition.
Yeah, exactly. And it's different when like you have to go out of your way for it.
Hmm.
Like it's like a non-engine piece, or maybe it's
Right.
like unsearchable or something like that. Whereas it's a different thing entirely when it's like a part of your combo.
Yeah.
Like even if you weren't intentionally trying to win in time, you are still gonna burn like on turn one for no reason. Like, and then that
Hmm.
it promotes or encourages an unhealthy like sportsmanship or unhealthy like
Right.
playing, and that's just something I just can't get behind. If they were gonna, I think, go after time cards, there were more cards that they could have.
Hmm.
But I don't think I think they were just more or less trying to hinder the power level of like the first effect of that card.
Yep. I agree.
For me, honestly, surprisingly, I think the only surprising hit was that grass looks greener going to one. Like that was like, hey yo, especially going to one. It's like if you're gonna bring it off, like what's the point of it? Bring it when these 60 card decks are playing it at one. Like you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? You're never gonna see that shit. So like, are you trolling right now or what was that?
I will say for grass looks greener decks, we thought time rules were bad before. Get ready for multiple minutes of how many cards in deck? How many cards in deck? Can you count them? I
Yeah,
need to check
exactly.
about something. And then mill that we're gonna see on stream, especially with new players, people activating it and milling the wrong number of cards. We're gonna see like people forgetting that like it's you the other opponent's gonna mill their cards. Like it's I feel I'm happy it's like I'm not happy that it's off because I don't think that it promotes like the bet. I think that 60 card decks are not like if you're gonna play a 60 card deck, don't play it because grass is legal. Play it because you're actually interested in it. But I feel like there's gonna be some bigger issues with people like getting a lot more calls about judge calls on them for like they didn't tell me the exact number of cards. Like there was a judge question in the lounge of like if my opponent's deck size is private knowledge, how am I supposed to activate this card? And it's like, get ready to have a bunch of people not understand that you have to have an accurate count of your deck.
Yeah, you have to know exactly what's on there.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, you
think
don't
that
have to
it's
you can't shuffle them around, but you can definitely
right.
even if you count it out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way down to however many you got left. It's
Hmm.
public knowledge the amount of cards left in
Yep.
deck.
And how many times are we going to see potentially on stream, especially with those new sleeves? Somebody goes to pick them up, count them, and the deck falls over, and there's now cards strewn about because somebody asked, "How many cards in deck?" in the middle of like a combo.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, I'm never gonna. It's the same thing when they say, yeah, what is it? 4 summons, 5 summons yet? It's
Yep.
like, all
Yep.
right, come on, guy, for real. We're just projecting now.
Yep. We know what this card is doing. It's gonna be a Saki one of and a 60 card deck, or you search it with thrust and then it's I think the funniest thing that I think is gonna happen though is because grass was banned before this card was announced, I will be so happy when on first time on stream somebody activates grass and then someone change shifter.
Yeah, that's not.
Like that's gonna be incredible.
So, is there anything that you think they kept off the list that probably should have been on, or maybe something that should have been taken care of in some capacity? Because I know there's definitely cards I got,
Oh
that
yeah,
should
there's
definitely
there's
been
a
on.
number, and I don't want to repeat what everybody's kind of said, so I'll name that I'll just name that it's not necessarily that there are specific cards that are missing for me. It's that just a kind of level of disrespect of like we've been under the same decks for months, even with new product getting released, and we see it on stream. Like I think aside from like one major event, it's been the same decks that have been winning, and I just feel like there are some very clear cards you could have banned. Like you can keep like it's surprising because Snake Eyes didn't need multiple hits. It needed one card to be hit and it was dead. It needed
Right.
either Ash, Poplar, or Flamberge banned, and Snake Eyes is no longer top deck. But to leave Flamberge at 3 is wild, and the other two only at 1 just feels like you really missed the mark on understanding like people are. It's not that we want new. It's not that we are upset. We're mostly upset with how long we've been under Snake Eyes and how long we will continue to be under
We
Snake
have
Eyes
left. Yeah.
because we're not gonna like the new stuff coming out is like Snake Eyes doesn't change where it is. And you could have had a chance to you're releasing all of this product, you're releasing all of this new stuff. Nobody's going to bring that to a tournament. Like, I'm not bringing fucking ice barriers to a tournament. Like, I'm going to bring Snake Eyes to a tournament because it's still the best deck.
Yeah. And it's not even like they're like making it so that way it's hindered in like the best possible way. Like I felt like they did this with cash format too, when they did like Unicorn to 2, a Rise Heart to 1. It was like, well, you're barely touching this deck. Like, we only played a Rise Heart like 1 or 2 anyway. Like, if you're playing 3, you just were a bad player. You didn't need 3. But it's we have so long to go. It's almost like they're giving us toss format without the other 3 decks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's
I
like
can
the
understand
modern.
people's frustration now.
It's a new Zodiac. It's like, guess you're just gonna keep playing under Zodiac. You're just gonna keep playing under Snake Eyes because we've seen them have the capacity to just to like ban a single card and slaughter a deck. Like, shout out to George, but Mathmech Circular, that killed the deck. It destroyed it.
Super Heavy Samurai,
Super Heavy Samurai. Like,
they ban one card, the whole deck just stops being played.
Yep, they know what cards will kill decks. Like, not that this deck died, but like Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds was, you don't even have to hit an archetype. Sometimes you can hit a specific card outside of it, and it's like you can kill it. Like, Flu wasn't dead, but it certainly wasn't as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like there were so, like, ban one of those 3 cards, and you don't even have to touch the other ones. Like, leave the other ones alone. Because I do believe that Konami wants a small ban list and doesn't want to do these massive hits. And you could have done that because you needed to get rid of Appaloosa. Generic extra deck removal and generic extra deck negates are a problem, along with Link 1s, in my opinion. But you could have hit, like, the Appaloosa hit was good, but it wasn't enough if you didn't get rid of one of Snake Eyes' main playmakers.
Hitting the end board does nothing if you're not hitting the combo. Like, they're just gonna end on something different.
Yeah. And with Fiendsmith also completely untouched, like, they're just gonna pivot to like, all right, I don't have Appaloosa anymore, so I'm just gonna make Wave King Caesar and be fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, Lacrima, definitely they're gonna feel that, but
sure,
if we're looking at certain decks, like, Yubel doesn't give a fuck about that.
Yubel
doesn't give a fuck about a Lacrima. Like, they're gonna make Aerial Eater instead. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're totally fine.
Most of these decks that were like crutching off of the Fiendsmith engine can implement other cards. Like, they still have Necroquip into M7 line. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these lines are still possible. It's just you're just not burning.
And what you did was you hit those decks and drastically hurt other ones. Like, there are some rogue decks that are just straight up dead because Prosperity's at 1.
Like, I was just about to say the pot to 1 actually kind of hurts a lot of.
It hurts so many decks.
For decks. Yeah.
Like, there's a couple like Dino YouTubers that I watched that they're like, with Misk and pot to 1, Dinos cannot go first. Like, they are.
There's no way. Yeah.
You need to hope they don't have hand traps and you can FTK them. Otherwise, you're dead.
I also don't like, not to say I don't like Time Seal of 3 because it shouldn't have been at 1, but I was schooled by someone that they can or Labyrinth, I should be saying. Is they can time seal you now turn 1. So not only can they rip the card from your hand with the big, whatever
lady. Well, one of the ladies.
Lady. Yeah, I don't remember which one it is. Princess Lady Girl.
Yeah.
And then they can prevent you from drawing and then reset it and play it again, so you'll never draw.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you about, because you and I are both Tenpai players.
Correct.
I'm not upset that Sengen it sucks.
I knew it was happening. I knew.
We all knew that it was gonna, like, I remember I was talking to somebody and they're like, no, I think they'll leave it alone. It's too new. And I was like, bro, it's a common. One of those cards, like, it's either summoning or it's Kaimen, and they're not gonna get rid of Kaimen because what is that, like, detachable?
My spidey sense was telling me that instead of Sangan, I think they were just gonna ban Transcendent. I thought they were gonna literally axe that card and says, you know what, you can be completely fine in the main phase. We're fucking with you in the battle phase. Because that was kind of like Dino's thing. Like, yeah, Misk was strong as fuck.
Yep.
And the only reason Misk was strong was because Dinos broke your board as they built. But once they get to the battle phase, that's it. Like, hopefully the board was cracked because it's just a leap of faith at that point. So like it would bring it back. In my head, I thought they were gonna bring it like kind of to that point because it was one or the other. Like it was either limit or ban Sangan, or
Yep.
you have to ban Transcendent, because you can't have all your cards be unaffected for one phase, and then the very phase behind that, you
Yep.
can't even activate cards. Like that's just like that's
Hmm.
troll as fuck.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I'm glad. I'm glad that they did do it, but I mean it wasn't necessarily needed at 3, but it did feel good to place one, have your
right.
opponent do all their dumb shit to get rid of it, and I'm like, all right,
All
cool.
right.
So anyway, place another one.
Set an activate another one. Yeah, same. The reason I asked that is because the arguments that everybody gives for Sangan summoning with the unaffected thing, there is another field spell that was released in the same set that is completely untouched, and that deck does an FTK,
Yeah, correct.
and
I think
that
you're talking about
FTK is
Nightmare
not
Throne.
that. Yeah, that what's it called? That FTK is not. It's still possible. Like they can still do it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like it's interesting that Tenpai is getting all of this hate, and I think that Gimmet Puppet will get the same hate, but like it's the field spell that effectively does almost identical things in the sense that they both do the same thing for their decks, but one of them got way more hate than the other, and I think it's just because Tenpai was a budget deck that was not super complicated.
I think that's really what it was too. It was like super. I don't want to say it's helmet, because depending on the build you have,
Right.
like if you were playing like how I first played Tempai, which was a whole bunch of hand traps with cross out and then
Hmm.
the Tempai cards, it forced you to have to learn how to hand trap, which is like
Hmm.
I think a needed step, or at least where hand traps are should be used at certain choke points to like be maximally like efficient. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that way this Ash Blossom gets me there. If I only open one ogre, how am I throwing this one combo out of whack with just this one ogre? You know what I'm saying? So you have to really kind
Hmm.
of like learn, because you have, not only that, but you have to crack a board behind that with the Tempai cards.
Right.
So it was obviously much easier with the field spell, because I could just
Yeah.
blink it. I don't give a fuck about your back row. Then I'm playing into your boards because I just don't care.
Yeah.
But there are cards that still search out like field spells. Like you still play Metaverse if you really feel
Hmm.
like you might lose a die roll. You could still play set rotation, which I think most people are doing now, and they're just
Hmm.
gonna play those generic fucking field spells now, like fucking Chicken Game and
Yeah.
Summon Breaker and fucking Pseudo Space and all those other dumb shits. They're just gonna be
Yep.
playing those now, and it's not to say not consistent. It's still doing everything it wants to do. Like they didn't even
Yep.
really hit the consistency of that deck. Like yeah, sure, you're not going to search as much with the for the Genroku, but like if I stick that summoning is not like a once per like a face up like card. Like I can just do that every turn.
Yeah. Exactly.
I only really need one essentially.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if the game goes like how I want, I'm popping that shit in battle phase and killing you regardless.
Exactly.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter.
You get rid of it, like, all right, cool. That's one less thing I have to worry about. I can still deal 15,000 damage to you if that was your only way
Exactly.
to like that thing was. It's fine as long as I get to the battle phase and I still have monsters on board, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna run Eclipse. Like I'll just book everything and be fine. Just kill all your shit, summon like 12 times in battle phase, and laugh at the Nibiru in your hand that's just dead."
Yeah, I also love definitely dancing around the Nibiru, especially with the format that we're going to be walking into now with
Oh
Appaloosa
yeah.
banned. Now that there's no buffer or generic buffer from cards like Nibiru,
Hmm.
Gamma, all these like turn-ending cards like
Yep.
Shifter and shit like that. So it's going to be different to see how these people are going to be deck building now that they can't buffer themselves and they're at the wills of these cards that are basically strong and meant to be strong.
Yep.
And then speaking of this ban list, is there anything that was like super impactful on this list that you think that all right, this was definitely needed? Because a lot of these, I would argue, were like some of them were hits that we needed. I can say that like all right, I was cool with them. That was impactful. But some of them, I would argue, like these didn't even matter. Like why would these even hits?
Right. I think all of the banned cards, solid picks. Like those were some of the best cards you could have picked. Beatrice was around too long. That needed to die a long time ago. Um, Calamity should have been banned a long time
Calamity too.
ago. Lacrima is Lacrima. Like it's that got banned for time rules. Like that's Konami's own fault for doing that. That card should have never had a burn effect. Like doesn't make if it didn't have a burn effect, it wouldn't be on the list. Um,
Correct.
and Appaloosa is probably the one that got like that we were just all we needed a deck we needed a new link spam deck in the era of like monster combo spam for Appaloosa to finally get the axe. But ironically, I think one of the most impactful card was because none of the other cards for me were super impactful. Like they didn't do a whole lot. I think skill drain to 1 was a solid hit. I think that was a good choice.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of I've said this before and I might get some flack for it. I don't think stun is a problem. I think that it forces people to play more back row hate. Like you're going to face it because people love that deck. I think Mystic Mine was a problem because it's Mystic Mine and it's an issue, but all of the floodgates at 1 means that they are heavily reliant on those floodgates, and while they will replace them, you've hit probably the most powerful ones right now. And people, you have to play back row hate in your deck. Like you cannot just be like, I'm just gonna, if I face off against a back row deck, I lose. Like play back row hate in your side deck or main deck. Just you're gonna play it, deal with it.
I agree with you because I think it was with you guys that I actually had the discussion as far as the importance of floodgates.
Yeah.
As far as like, helping newer players or less experienced players like crutch their way up to leveling a playing field to actually play. So I understand the need for them. I do like floodgates at 1 because in my head, at least to me personally, if I deal with it, it's fucking done. Like if you have it, there can only be 1 on me, and I have to normal summon a Veiler, go into a fucking. I couldn't even know it couldn't even be Veiler because of fucking Anima. But if I could like normal level 1, go into an Anima, special something out, and then go into like maybe a Nightmare Phoenix to try and get rid of it. And the second I go Nightmare Chain 1 target discard, they're gonna flip a second copy, and I'm just gonna fucking rage. It's just like dog. Like they should all be at 1. So I agree with like the stun players need them, and they are needed, I guess, for the game, even if it is a small sect of the game. Yeah. But they definitely should all be at 1. If I deal with that shit and I prove that I'm the best player, I shouldn't have to lose just because you just drew better. You know what I'm saying? Like you just had a second one set.
Get ready for the next major archetype in the next deck builder pack to be these cards set continuous traps from the graveyard and banish zone. And then it doesn't matter how many one-ofs they make. I'm just going to reset skill drain.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I will also add with the new players in stun, I also think it's super important because the thing with stun decks is you're not just sitting there you're not just flipping 4 floodgates and sitting there. New players might do that, but what's a valuable lesson for them to get is like how a skilled player breaks the board and how they understand the interactions, which teaches you about the game. Like I think that in the same vein that everybody should play a meta deck, I think everybody should try a stun deck because it helps you understand how to deal with that kind of deck, why it's important to run back row hate, why it's important to not shotgun certain effects, and why it's also not important to cosmic blind. Like you should like learning those kinds of, and for new players, which is a new lesson because there were so many floodgates, and I think MBT did a great job of showing this. It's never good to set 5 pass with 5 continuous trap cards because then you can't activate your cards unless you're running the White Forest cards. Then you're just sitting there like, all right, if this person has the exact 1 monster that can live through all of these floodgates, they're just going to poke me for 1,000 each turn until I'm dead because I can't do anything else.
I've flooded up my back row and I don't play monsters or don't play big monsters.
Or I play Runic and I can't activate the Runic spells because all of my spell traps are taken up by like Grave of the Super Ancient Organism, Skill Drain, Tikaboo, Goes and Match. There can only be 1, or Synchro Zone. You're like, all right, you can't attack with all these stuff, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna make a very small synchro and just keep attacking you.
I'm just gonna poke you. Sorry.
I'm just gonna poke you. That's what I'm gonna do.
you better have some hand traps you could set.
Yep.
Are there any speaking of which, are there any decks you think that might be like a claim to, or maybe even have a shot to claim the title of best in the format, or is it really just a hindered Snake Eyes is still gonna prove itself top dog for yet another 3 months?
I think until Rage of the Abyss, Yubel is probably the best deck. Yubel Fiend. With the Unchained cards. Okay. I think that they're top dog. Mostly because like opening was a hit, but it wasn't enough to stop them. And they'll just pivot to more Fiendsmith stuff or more Unchained stuff. um, which is like not horrible. Like that, I like that deck because of the unique interactions it does. And again, teaching new players, like especially the Pirelli fans who are like, "Oh, you can't touch Noir," and they're like, "Actually, I can do whatever I want to it because I'm changing the effect, not affecting the monster." Um,
Exactly.
and yeah, and in the same vein, like the top decks are not all the other decks that should have taken their spots. Should the top decks have gotten hit harder? They're hit just as hard, and they didn't get it. They're not getting anything new. Like every rogue deck that was like, I might have a chance to get up there.
Yeah,
Prosperity shot
Memento,
that
stuff
shit
like that.
down. Like it's done. You can't. Like you're not gonna get up there because the hits just weren't strong enough. Like Tempai is still gonna be Tempai. Uh, Snake Eye is just aside from drawing Poplar and throwing your card on the ground, your deck doesn't really change that much because Oak can just bring Ash back. Flamberge is still a thing. You didn't now you lose. You're more vulnerable to Nibiru, but you're still have 3 cards in hand with a crackback and a giant Nibiru token.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's, and you got nothing for it now either. Like
Right.
you better save your fucking. I think you have to go back to like, what is it? The first wave of Snake Eyes like deck
Mm-hmm.
theory when you had to use the temple to bring up your oak,
Yep.
just in case you got nibs, so you can like keep playing through it. Like we have to go back there. We're going back to primate thinking. You know what
Yep.
I'm
And now
saying?
you're gonna play the other Snake Eye cards that like the purple one that nobody plays. Like
Oh,
those
Birch. Oh
Birch,
my
yeah,
god,
yeah.
yeah.
You're gonna play those because like you got to replace Ash with something, but they're like, all
Nigga
right,
gotta extend, right?
yeah, I'm just gonna keep
Extending
extending.
tendies.
Like, still got fucking 12 starters in the deck. I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna add more extenders,
Yeah, I
and it's
didn't think
like,
that the pop going to one would be as impactful, but like, yeah, if you open that shit, or if like you've already if you have Ash and
yeah,
Bonfire, it's kind of like redundant. You better hope you have
hmm
an imperm for your Ash and make it worth it.
exactly. Um, and I think like you're also just dealing with Snake Eyes is still their main thing is just link spam, and now they're just gonna replace it with a new link monster. Like they're gonna go Saryuja draw deep to get what they need and
Hmm.
rush summon some shit and still make IP SP with a bunch of interruptions and follow up.
I
I
can
was
agree.
talking
I
to
can agree.
I was talking to a friend of mine that was like, the reason Snake Eyes was such a problem is yes, you can hand trap them. You can respond with hand traps to them and it's gonna hurt them. But if even in a simple ass Snake Eye board of like what was Opelusa, so the current Snake Eye board, it takes like 2 to 3 hand traps to break the board, and then they have 4 cards in hand, 3 of which they search, or an additional 3 cards because of Flamberge and potentially Poplar, and 4 of those cards are probably hand traps. So they're answering your
Not including a wanna draw.
right. They're answering your 3 cards with 4 cards. So your deck is not doing anything against that.
Yeah, maybe some of these like newer like decks that we give, like as far
Mm,
as like deck theorying wise, should like
yeah.
incorporate some sort of real disadvantage, like discarding cards. So like, and
Yes.
that, like not to say like in what is it, Infernity or whatever, but like
Hmm.
something similar to like, yeah, you're gonna have to like discard some shit to do these powerful ass effects, or like
Right.
or something of a bigger requirement, like you can only activate these cards if you have like a X amount of cards in your extra deck, so that way you have
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
encourage to play less extra deck monsters to like
Yeah.
incorporate for it. But I don't know, it's just these these shits are crazy. I
They're
think that there
nuts.
are some decks that can like compete though. Like if there are some other decks that can contend at least until we get Rage of the Abyss in like the next few months. Like
Yep.
I think that Infernoid Snake is probably
Hmm.
still a really strong pick. Like Decatron is fucking crazy.
The grass is a hell
I
of a
think
card.
yeah, but and they just got that. I was about to say like they just
Yep.
got boosted up at least by 1 card. Like I know that I was talking to Eric Christensen. He's gonna be on that for a little bit,
Of
just
course he is.
tinkering with it. Yeah, he said he loved it too, and he was talking about it like because he brought it to locals and he was playing, and he made it to top cut and whatever, and he was talking about how like he thought he was even a good engine back when it first came out, and like how
Hmm.
he just tried to make it just more consistent. So he thinks that this might be another time where he might actually fall in love with playing that archetype again.
Okay.
But there's even decks that like Chimera Beansmith
Hmm.
that
Yep.
are still
Yep.
really really good and still put up pretty contending boards through a whole bunch of hand traps with the ability
Hmm.
of Chimera Fusion to like re-add itself like 8 fucking times. But like you can really do some damage with like some decks that are in the form. Even like what was it? The new Exodia shit. I was
Oh
playing
yeah,
with Ian.
they're just gonna put that
Shout
in
out to
Snake
Ian.
Eyes.
Yeah, that shit is crazy. That
Yep.
shit's kind of lit. I'm not even
Yep.
gonna lie. I was clowning my dog for losing it to it not too long ago. I'm like, yo, dog, you gonna be losing that Exodia? Like,
Mm-hmm.
fucking. He goes, yeah, man.
Like, all
Exxon is
right,
a
Kevin.
crazy card. I said, yeah, dead ass. But like, I'm like, yo, what the fuck? So I played against it online. I'm like, oh, this shit kind of
Yeah.
strong. They like ended on like the secret village with the fusion monster,
Mm-hmm.
double set trap. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? I can't play. There's a spell negate somewhere in there. I'm like, what the fuck
Yep.
is going on?
I was playing that against. I was playing Tenpai, and I was playing that against a friend of mine pre-Banlist like a month ago, and he did it, and I was like, what the fuck is this board? And I couldn't do anything, and because I think I specialed. I was trying to special before the battle phase so I could try and kill everything, not reading the Exodia Fusion because I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player and don't read cards. But he, what's there's a ghost sister that negates a monster, and if it doesn't go to the graveyard, you lose 2,000. You cut your life points in half. I can't remember which one it is.
Oh, it's
Um,
spooky
Spooky
dogwood.
Dogwood. So
Yeah.
he activated that, and he had paid 6,000 life points, and he was like, I was like, oh man, but I never scoop, so I'm like, I'm gonna have you kill me. So he goes end phase, and he was like, oh shit, I'm dead. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, watch, end your turn. And I was like, okay, end my turn. And I had like fucking I had nothing on board, and he was like, all right, I take half my life points because the monster didn't go to the graveyard. I had one of the Tengai dragons. And then he goes, all right, draw phase, standby phase, Exodia burns me for 1,000 and I lose. And I was like, oh shit, that's cool. I'm glad that happened because I was dead.
It does burn him for something.
It burns for 1,000 in the standby.
Mm, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
So he had 1,000. He had paid 6,000, cut his life points in half to 1,000 with the ghost sister, and then burned himself for game. And I was like,
Awesome.
yeah.
When
This is
doing
great.
nothing is the best option.
When doing nothing wins you the game, because I had like all monsters in hand, and he was like, I just negate your first monster, and I was like, all right, well, I'm fucked.
Yeah, literally. I mean, like, it's just a point in time where it's just like, you know what? I'm gonna actually just pass and let you do your own doing. You know,
And
what
I
mean?
had
So like,
he knew it. He knew it. I didn't know it. He could have like said, "I'm gonna kill. I have game on board," and I would have been like, "I got to see you kill me." That's why new players never scoop. Let them, because sometimes they just fuck up and you win.
yeah, sometimes they're just bad players. You know,
Sometimes.
they're just donations. They are the NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there are definitely some decks that can contend. I
Yeah.
think that Rage is gonna bring us a little bit more of diversity as far as like that new Mermail shit. I think that's pretty strong. Like we get the new XYZ archetype. I don't know what the fuck it's called. We're also getting that Mal Chummy fucking
Max 3.
Yeah, we're getting Max 3.
God.
Yeah, we're gonna get Max 3. So
Max
there's a lot
3.
of things to look forward to, but you know, I think that we should just take it one step at a time, one
I agree.
format at a time, and then you know we're gonna just take it with this one, which people can still play. I'm curious to see how the pros are gonna switch things up. It's funny when Banlist season always happens. Like all of our group chats get popping just because people are like, "Yo, this is my deck is hurt. You know, how do I recover? You know, what are we replacing?" You know, I love the "what are we replaced with" statements when people just be going like to the depths of like to like try to find something to make their deck work still. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I heard someone tell, bro, I don't remember what it is right now, but I think someone was like, what do we put in for this? I was like, yo, we're not doing shit right now. We're like that. Oh, I think someone was like, are we putting in the Birch and Snake Eyes? Like, are we really playing Birch now? And I'm like, dude, just let the fucking pros decide it.
Yeah, let them figure it out.
Let them lab. Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll take it to a tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, just
Yep.
you don't need to be the best one right now. You don't need to be the first. It's like when you're playing Destiny or you know any of those games where like they have like big ass fucking
like updates and they reset ranks and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just like everyone's or even when they do like the raids, like everyone's trying to be like the first person to do a raid. I'm like, nigga, would you just let them fucking figure it out and then you can do it? Yeah, dead ass. Like, why are we trying to be the first? You want to sit there for 16 hours in the lab? Go ahead, but
like
it's not gonna be me.
There are people that this is their job. Like this is what they do for a living. Destiny streamers, like fucking Fortnite, like all these people that stream. Who am I? I had a full-time job. I ain't gonna be the one doing that. I'm like 30. I'm not gonna be the one to do that. Like, let it happen. I was picking up a new deck and I was like, all right, this I was picking up branded because I thought it would be cool, and then branded fusion get hits to 1, and I'm like, apparently Master Duel is headed at 1, and for some reason Sanctifier is still legal. So I think the only change is take out 2 branded fusion and play the deck the way it is. And I was like,
I,
oh,
I,
interesting.
I was saying that. I still think it's the same thing. There's like they don't even really need it to resolve anyway. If they
Yeah.
got their Branded Fusion Ash, like they would still just do the fusion
Yep.
duplication shit, yada yada.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? There's ways to get around it, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like it really wasn't that big of a deal. I'm still gonna
Hmm.
get gimmick locked, and that's all that matters.
Yep. Which I don't know why it, like, I would have rather had like I picked up most of the deck. I borrowed it specifically saying don't give me Sanctifier Gimmick Puppet. I know it's getting hit. It's definitely getting hit. And
Yeah,
then I
for
look at
real.
the ban list, went on TCG Player, bought a Sanctifier.
I'm like, yo,
I
I'm
was
first
like,
in line, baby.
I'll buy that before it goes up in price because everybody's like, why the fuck is this card still legal?
Deadass. It's just too broken. I think that even if they would have, they should have just banned the gimmick nightmare, and you should have just replaced it with something else that is interactable instead of like just fucking blanket.
Yeah.
But worst case, they should just ban Albion. I think that
Hmm.
the Branded Fusion at 1 is odd, but it doesn't kill the deck. But I would have rather Sanctifier be gone if that's the case.
Yeah, I agree.
But also, lastly, talking about the last topic today, because I know I'm taking Mel away from his everyday life with his doggos and wife, so I want to make sure he gets back to them. I wanted to also talk to you guys about the information that I received from our sponsors over at Unplugged Gaming. I was trying to set up a case tournament for the newest set, Raid to the Abyss, and I was contacting them as I usually do, and they said that they've received an email from Konami basically banning the use of their Konami products for any kind of prize support or anything like that for non-Konami sanctioned events. So this is anything that's not a locals on a daily basis for any OTS, OTS championships, regionals, YCSs, and then as well as premier events. So like if they're not for any of those type of events, no OTS can hold anything for any sort of like case tournament, no box tournaments, no cash prizing. So we're gonna get into that because I got many OTS across the world basically received the same message, and I have an excerpt from the email that they've sent because we were gracious enough to snag it from Unplugged, and this is where they said, "Dear OTS, there are often questions regarding the ability of our OTS to run or be involved with a non-Konami sponsored or sanctioned Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game event, and we would like to take a moment to clarify our position regarding events that are not sponsored by Konami. Running non-Konami Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG tournaments is a violation of our policy. The Yu-Gi-Oh! is TCG is licensed to Konami, and as such, we obtain approval for each tournament and event that we hold. By definition, a non-Konami sponsored event is an event that is not approved by the license holder at Konami. As an OTS, our expectation is that you run only sanctioned events that have gone through the necessary approval process through Konami. If you are if you are approached to run or be involved with a Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG event, issue invitations to a Yu-Gi-Oh event, or to purchase a kit for a Yu-Gi-Oh TCG event that is not sponsored by Konami or promoted on our website listed below. There are no events that offer cash prizing, so this is another sign that this event is a violation of Konami policy and not allowed to be run by an OTS. Please be aware that any OTS choosing to participate in non-Konami sanctioned events will risk their store's good standing with Konami. If you are not in good standing, you will not be invited to participate in core boosted premier events, receive OTS packs, nor special events that offer free prizing to your players, just to name a few. In some cases, an OTS store's status could be reincited. You are, of course, welcome to hold events for other TCG games and collectible card games that are not based in the TC or Yu-Gi-Oh TCG. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact your OTS team at this email list listed below. So, first thoughts. What do you think about this, and how do you think it's going to affect OTSs moving forward? Do you think that this? I mean, obviously, this is part of their policy, and people were kind of doing it under the table, and they were kind of like, brushing it under the rug. But now they're kind of taking their step down and saying, yo, all right, we're not doing this shit anymore. You guys are only going to do these 4 types of events, and then that's fucking it. Do you think that that's fair?
First thing I'm gonna say is Konami, you should be steering clear of any conversations about pricing right now, considering the community's
Correct. Correct.
outward despair and frustration and rage about pricing. So this is very poorly timed, in my opinion. Um, the other thing, among other things, I feel like it's an interesting stance to take, because it feels like it tells me that you are allowed to get approval for anything that's not money. It seems like if you, as long as you get approval, then you're good. And I'm kind of reading it as that response of like, basically, if you want to give out something other than packs or play mats, talk to your person first and see if it's approved. And as long as it's not cash, there's at least a conversation about it. But it's very not, I wouldn't call it hostile, but it definitely feels like Konami was not clear about this policy, and thus people kind of ran away with it, and now they're like trying to bring sort of everybody back into the gates of
Corral everyone
sorts.
back.
Yeah, corral everyone back when we like the community knows that one, pricing sucks, and two, that stores are going to do this, and just hope that nobody says anything about it.
Yeah. Sure. If sure, because I didn't know that it was like illegal to do those things. I always wondered like why Konami never did it, but like other OTS stores do it. But like
Right.
YTSs were never like that. But now I understand why. And apparently this was like off of a trigger of an event that happened in Orlando. It was like a GOAT format event at like what was it, Versus Games in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
They gave out custom YGG Drizzle mats and invites to GOAT Worlds,
Mm-hmm.
which has cash pricing and shit like that. And then Konami contacted them a couple days before the event, saying uh, when people were flying in, or saying that they couldn't do it when people were flying in, and that they couldn't give out the mats or invites, or that their OTS status would be pulled. And the OTS basically said, "Fuck it, we're gonna give it out." And then Konami didn't pull their OTS status, but then like the email came out saying that they were cracking down on stores and shit. So
Yeah.
like that's exactly I think what may have triggered it was just them saying like fuck you, we're gonna do
Yeah.
whatever
Like.
we want.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of agree with the OTSs. Is like if I'm putting my time and effort into this, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like and like running a store that needs overhead to be met, like why do you give a fuck what I'm doing? If I'm buying the product to put up for pricing
Right.
for any sort of event, why the fuck do you care?
I
You know what I'm
agree.
saying?
Yep.
It's not like you're giving it to me on the float and then like I'm paying it back. I paid my money for it. It's like I have the same discrepancy or gripe with like video games. When you buy a video game online, you have
Mm-hmm.
less rights to that video game than if you were to buy the disc, because
Right.
like you can't mod it, you can't change it, you can't do anything. The way I'm looking at it is like, yo, bro, if I bought that shit, I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. You lease it to me,
Mm-hmm.
I can do what I want. But
Yeah.
that's, I guess this ain't like that. But like I know because Gamers Choice used to do it all the time. They used to have like case tournaments and box tournaments and
Mm-hmm.
shit like that. Like so,
Yep.
how do you think that it's gonna affect like your OTSs in your area, especially in New York City?
I mean, I think that it's gonna be. I think it's. I think it'll affect quite a bit more, mostly because like those stores were not doing it to stick it to Konami. They were doing it because they needed to attract people, like better players or players that cared about pricing with better pricing. And I just feel like now we're in a situation where, because Konami was already kind of doing that, where they say like OTSs can't sell OTS packs and can't sell ultimate, and at least TCG Player doesn't let you do it either. But like selling OTS ultimates and things like that, like they're already restricting so much of the available pricing that it just feels like we're in a situation where people are not able to, stores are basically fighting tooth and nail to try and bring people in with products that with pricing that people want to have. Like those
Yeah,
Yggdrasil mats are really cool, and like the Spellbound mat, this or Spellground mats are also really cool, and
yeah,
those are
they're
like some
lit.
valuable pricing. They're cool, better than a box that doesn't give you the average value pulled is $20.
Or a
Like
Nintendo Switch.
right, or like oh God, fucking Nintendo Switch. I do wonder if when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, if Konami will then give out Nintendo Switch 2s, or if they'll still like because
they're just gonna anchor it and just say fuck it, we're still giving out Nintendo Switches.
where
Just
and then
run.
it's gonna then it'll increase in value because then it becomes a nostalgia item, like an unopened Switch selling on eBay for $800, Konami licensed or whatever.
Yo,
But they did the
pack of
same
them are
thing
gonna be
with
fucking stacked.
yeah, right. They did the same thing with Legacy of the Duelist, where it's like you're giving out prizing as a physical copy of a game that you haven't updated in like 10 years.
Yeah.
It just it
And
feels like
don't have any
almost
intention of it.
right. It feels like almost a slap in the face of like your store because that's a creative way to get more people in, and I would imagine Konami would be feel good about that. Like instead of being so like hardlined, make a stance of in addition to whatever prizing you're giving, you also have to give out Konami product. Like make up the difference that way. Like give out a booster box, like as long as you give out like packs or a booster box in addition to whatever you're giving out, that's fine. Like if your concern is that people are not getting Konami products, work with stores with this. This feels like a situation where it's like you are just having like an iron wall for the sake of
Yeah,
having
you're
one.
being petty. Yeah.
Yes. Like again, stores are a business. They are trying to make money to keep their stores open. It's hitting a little closer to home for us because we have a store in New York City that shut down yesterday because they could not keep up with they couldn't keep up.
Oh,
And it
really?
sucks because now Xenos is a store. I have to remember the exact name, but they shut down because they can't like it's not valuable to be a card shop anymore. It's not worth it, especially with Yu-Gi-Oh because like at least with Pokemon and Magic and Lorcana and all the other ones, you can give out cash prizing and that brings more people in, or you at least give out like I think Pokemon for Gamers Choice when they were doing it, or then when they do it, they have the Pokemon League, but they also have for each entrant we'll add 2 more packs. So at least in that way, the store is not losing a massive amount of money if they have like a 10-person tournament because it's 20 packs they're giving out versus Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's like you have to give out an OTS pack, then you have to give out massive prizing just to get people invested because these booster boxes don't sell for much and the product to them is not worth a lot, except for like one secret rare Molcharmy.
Yeah,
It's just like
literally.
it's a frustrating line to have to that Konami is taking when the community is just asking for better pricing support, and it just feels like really poor timing right now for them to be like, by the way, the pricing has to be what we say, even though it sucks.
Which it sucks because it doesn't have to be like that. And I know we're
Right.
going into another fucking spin-off conversation about pricing and shit like that, but like
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't have to be like this. Like who cares what they do? If someone wants to run a case tournament, if like you're not gonna sanction a 3v3 event, which is something I like to host out here in Syracuse
Mm-hmm.
because like people like to have something different. If you're not gonna go and put that shit on the itinerary, then why are you hindering us from trying to like have some
Right.
fun? Like you know what I'm saying? If you're not gonna put toss format on your Time Wizard fucking itinerary, why should I as a Yu-Gi player be hindered because of it? Like you know what I'm saying? This is the way I
Yeah.
look at it and the way I think towards it. It's like, yo, why the fuck do you care? Like your bottom dollar, it's not taking anything out of your pocket. It's not taking anything out of your mouth. Like if
Mm-hmm.
anything, people have to go clamor to go buy these cards to attend these events that are different because they're not modern. So it's harder to get cards that aren't in rotation.
Right.
So like if anything, you're just patting your bottom dollar. Like so, I don't. Man, that shit don't make no fucking sense to me, dog.
Hey, I'm not big wig at Konami. Never have been. Never
Yeah,
probably
my
will be.
uncle's cousin's monkey's brother is though. So
Wow. So a monkey's
you know
working at Konami. That's
what
cool.
I'm saying? Hey, don't say that too loud. All right, but we are starting to run out of life points here. I got my boy Mel here for like an hour, so I'm so glad that we were able to get him out here and have such a great content. It was a really great conversation. I didn't notice we were speaking for so long until I looked
Yep.
down and just looked at the clock. But just a reminder of our sponsored content. As you guys know, the Linktree link is down below. You click it. There's a tab comes up with all of our social sites. Like, follow, share, subscribe, all that shit. Do all the fucking stuff, the clickety clicks and all that. And then help us grow because in turn we're gonna help you guys grow, not only as players but as a community as well. Shout out to Unplugged Gaming for sponsoring the podcast. You can join their Discord down in the description box down below and join other TCG communities as well. And also shout outs to Brad, aka Mr. Perfect, who also streams on Twitch live every Saturday at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And his link will also be in the Linktree link down below. Again, one more time, just to thank our guest Mel for coming on and donating his time to the platform. Did you want any last minute shout outs, plugins, final thoughts on the show tonight? Any Banlist thoughts, anything like that before we close out?
Just shout out to you for having me on. I mean, the conversation was easy because we've known each other for so long.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, thank you for having me. Heart of the podcast. We do intend on returning at some point in the next month or so. We just gotta get together and get the crew back together. So look for us potentially
The
in the future.
boys are back in town.
Oh yeah, be careful, copyright.
Oh wow. Yeah, no, I can't be saying things too loud. But thank you so much for coming on, Mel. I can't wait to have you like the rest of the crew on or be featured over there on Heart of the Podcast as I used to do.
Yep.
We are now officially out of life points, guys. Thank you so much for listening to yet another episode. I am Player X, and you've been listening once again to the semi-limited
Wait.
podcast.
We're still in end phase, right?
We're in end phase.
I'm gonna activate runic destruction, summon Munin,
Oh my god.
affect Munin.
Oh, Mel won in time, guys. You already
I won
know.
in
So, and
time.
he planned, which means he planned it. So he planned to do this.
I planned it. Yep. No, for legal reasons, this is a joke. I did not plan to go for time.
You guys heard it here, folks. Guys, I'm Player X. You've been listening to the Semi Limited Podcast. Thank you and good night.